Good morning and welcome to Williams Island TV. Today we have a lot of stuff going on. We're going to interview another candidate for the City Commission, Cindy Orlinsky. She should be here shortly. But I understand Arlene Birdie wants to interview me a little bit. So this is going to be a switch. So we will be right back where Arlene is going to interview me. Okay, welcome back. And Arlene, actually Arlene is really the producer of this. She sets this up, she organizes it, and she promised she'll be very kind to me today. Because, you know, there's a program on television called The Last Word. So I get the last word. Anyway, good morning, Arlene.
Well, good morning. We wanted to flip the script on you a little bit today. So you're always speaking to people, you're always interviewing people, and you always, ask the most interesting questions. So I think the island wants to learn a little bit about you.
Okay.
So let's start off. What is your story? What's your origin story?
Very good question. Now, I have a lot of lives. I was born in Manhattan, Lenox Hill Hospital. For the first 6 years of my life, we lived in Washington Heights, it was called, in New York City. It's me, my sister, my mother, my father, my grandmother, and my aunt in a one-bedroom apartment.
Oh, wow.
You didn't go out after dark. Then after that, I moved to New Rochelle. Normal growing up, beautiful city, went to school there, went to elementary, went to junior high, and went to high school. When I got out of high school, I was accepted to Juilliard for music. Music was my passion. My father was a concert pianist. My mother was a housewife. I went to Juilliard and I lasted about 3 weeks because it was very classical and it was too much formality to me. I wanted more fun. So I went to the U of M and I was a music major and a finance major jointly. When I got out of school, I had 2 offers to write music because I used to produce and write shows at the U of M at that time. I got an offer to write a musical score for United Artists and I had an offer to write a musical show for Lincoln Center.
How exciting.
Well, naturally, my first one was movie. Wow, I'm going to California. I'm going to L.A. I went there. The movie got canceled. Went back to New York, ready to go ahead and now become the author of a musical. And the managing director of that time of Lincoln Center was a guy named Henry Gettle, who was married to Mary Rogers, Richard Rogers, his daughter. He got fired. The show got canceled. And now I sit in New York without a job, penniless, knowing nothing of what I was going to do with my life. And then I got involved with, I guess they called them back then, what's called a backers audition. And what that was is the producer, the authors of the shows would play little vignettes of what they wanted to do. People would come and invest. So I was invited to go to this musical, financial investment. Now, not for me, because I didn't have 10 cents to my name, but I went with some friends, and it was going to be the musical of Bus Stop, the movie with Marilyn Monroe. And William Inge, the Pulitzer Prize winner, had made it and wrote it. Anyway, so I went to this thing, and not that I knew that much about it, but I said, this is the worst music I've ever heard in my life. I said, how could anybody invest in this show? This music was god-awful. So I left the backers audition, and I was a little bit of rambunctious. I was a gutsy kid. And I asked who the attorney was who represented William Inge, who was the author. And I found out, I'll never forget, his name was Arnold Weisberg. And I went to him as Mr. Weisberg. I've never produced a show in my life. I've never done anything on Broadway in my life, but I love music and I know this is going to fail. And I said, I'd like the rights to the show. He said, okay, that's great, except I don't have that authority. You have to go to California, speak to Mr. Inge, which is where he was at the time. And just a side story, Bill Inge and Tennessee Williams were lovers for many, many years. They broke up. Bill Inge was so upset by this whole thing that he moved to California and Tennessee Williams stayed in New York. So I saved up enough money to fly to California because I didn't have the flight. Went to friends and borrowed the money. Went to California, knocked on the door, went to his house, and we spent 3 days together talking. At the end of the 3 days, then he was talking and I was playing the piano a little bit, and we just really hit it off well. And he said, look, there's a period of time I can't do anything with the show until these guys default. She said, but we would need a $5,000 deposit. Now, by the way, this was in the 60s.
$5,000.
That was a lot of money. And I had nothing. So I said, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to give you a check for $5,000. Don't cash it till you can, because I don't have the money. I left. I came back to New York, and I figured I'd never hear from them again. About 3 months later, I get a call from Arnold Weisberg, his attorney, saying, Bob, you better put money in the bank. Mr. Inge is going to give you the rights to a show. Now, understand at that time, I was working in financial world and music a little bit, but I was also working in New York City. There was a little nightclub bar called the Monkey Bar. And I'd go in at night, play the piano, work for tips, and, they feed me.
Yeah.
One night I walk in, and there's some guy playing the piano. And I say, wait, that's my piano. I don't eat tonight if I don't play. So I sat with him. We started talking. And it was this big, burly guy. And anyway, we just started talking, and he's playing, and I'm singing, and I'm playing, he's singing. So-so voice. And in the course of conversation, we got to talking. I said, well, what do you do? He said, oh, I'm a writer with Motown. I said, really? And I really didn't believe him, actually. But I said, okay. And he could barely play the piano, had a lousy voice, but he said, oh, I write all the hits for the Supremes, and I wrote this, and I wrote that. I'm saying, yeah,
okay.
Sure, okay. Bottom line is, we went after this 2 o'clock in the morning, we went out, had drinks. Next day, we meet for breakfast. And he said, look, I've got a great idea. Because I told him about the show that I had the rights to, but I had no money. He said, I've got an idea. Meet me at that time, it was LaGuardia, but they also called it another name of the airport back then. And I said, meet me at the airport. We're going to Detroit. I had no idea what the hell was in Detroit at that time. Now, you understand, I'm 22 years old. And I meet him at the airport. He had a ticket for me, and we sure enough flew to Detroit. A limousine picked us up.
Wow.
And we go to this god-awful area of Detroit, but this big building, and on the front of it, it says Motown.
So now you believe him?
So I'm wondering now, what the hell's going on? We go in the building, and we go right up to Berry Gordy's office, the president of Motown. And Ron said, I'd like you to meet Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy, blah, blah, blah. Bob has the rights to Bus Stop, the musical, and we should do something. And we sat and we talked, and we went over the whole thing. At the end of the meeting, sure enough, Ron was what he said he was. He wrote Baby Love, What Are You Doing? I mean, all these big hits from the Supremes, For Once in My Life. I mean, these are all his big hits. So sure enough, we made a deal with Motown. They were putting up the money for the show, for the recording rights, but we had to use their office to write the music. And we did, and we got started with that whole thing. So that was my Broadway, and I also was doing other shows at that time. I was producing. There was a guy named Earl Wilson, who was a columnist in New York at that time for the Daily Post, I think it was. So we did a show together. We wrote also. So I was involved with Broadway at that time, and I decided it was really very difficult to have these backers auditions and find people with money. So I came up with a concept of taking my company public on the stock exchange, raising money through this public offering to finance shows. We started doing this, and we went public with it. And at 24, we had a public company earmarked to do productions of Broadway shows, financing them that way. Somebody decided it's a stock investor. Something went wrong, no big deal. But he called the Securities and Exchange Commission. And they started an investigation to see whether everything was done legitimately, normal, nothing special, except my attorney had lost one of the approvals. When you're a board of director of a public company, you have to sign that you're actually doing it. He didn't do it. He lost the approval of William Inge. So now they're saying I may have committed fraud.
Oh, good.
They contacted Bill Inge to verify that he was a director, and Bill said, I never approved it. Well, now they start a formal criminal investigation, but Bill Inge in the interim commits suicide.
Oh my
Which horrible, because he was so distraught. And it ended, except the stock went from like $20-something a share down to 50 cents during this whole period. So in 73, with 3 kids, I moved to Florida without a dime to my name, broke, penniless after being right up there. And I was pumping gas in a gas station on 125th Street in Biscayne. And from there, I was just pumping, working, met somebody who was involved with some charity organizations here, and I went to work with Crown Liquors at that time. We built lounges all over the state of Florida. And from there, I got involved with opening up a nightclub in Lauderdale. It was called Bubba's. It was a jazz club. But we had Sarah Vaughan and Mel Torme and all these names. And while I was working there and running it, because we owned it at the time, I got an offer to build a community in West Hollywood, in Pembroke Pines. And we started building it, and it was Grand Palms Golf and Country Club, and we started building, and at that time, because my public company was building theaters around the country, I knew construction. So we started building homes, and we went from 1 home to 10 homes to 50 homes to the point where we were the largest single-family home builder, private company, other than, at that time, we were the largest in the state of Florida. And we were doing about 500-600 homes a year, built thousands of homes all over the state until 2008 when the market crashed. And from there, you lose everything, you make everything, you lose it. But that was my life. So I went from all of this, but I learned years earlier public speaking. I used to have to go before commissions and boards to get approvals of things. So you learn how to speak to people, get along with people, do these things. And theater and the arts was always my passion. I loved it. So that's a little about, I met my wife today. I was president of the Synagogue Beth Torah here in North Miami Beach, Aventura. And my wife at that time, she was the cantor, was working there as the cantor. And we didn't really get along well together, as a matter of fact. And one day the rabbi said to me, he said, look, we're doing this dinner dance. Would you play? And she would sing. It would be very nice to have the president of the synagogue. And I said, sure. But it sounds like fun. But we don't really get along. He's, don't worry, I'll talk to her. And P.S., we practiced. She couldn't sing at the time. I couldn't play. There was just something off. P.S., the song got canceled because they decided not to do whatever they were doing. But then we became good friends. She was going through a divorce. She actually was divorced already. I went through my divorce. And about 7 years later, we wound up getting married.
Oh, look at that.
So we met there over something where we never really liked each other to move together now. My daughter is a federal judge. She's a Chief Justice of the Southern District of Florida for the Bankruptcy Division. My son works for Apple. Her 3 kids are going for a master's in Georgetown in finance. Another one's going for a master's in art therapy. And the other one is going for his master's in marketing and advertising. We have a bunch of dogs, a bunch of squirrels. My life has been a myriad of every day is a different life. Nothing is ever. I started with music, then I got into construction, then I got involved with music. Today I do productions. We have running on Broadway and in London, Back to the Future, the musical. We have Hairspray running in London. We have Grease doing a touring show. I'm part of one of the owners of a nightclub in New York City. It used to be Studio 54.
I remember.
And now it's 54. Well, I'm sure you do. And we'll talk about that next. We'd like to hear those stories. We bought the bottom of 54 Below and called it 54. At that time, Michael Feinstein came in with us and was called Feinstein's 54 Below. He was with us for 10 years. Then he went over to the Carlisle, and it's all Broadway musical, 2 shows a night, 52 weeks a year. It's a dinner club, supper club. And we still have that in New York. So I'm in New York. I take a week every month and go up there for that and other things I do. But I'm still involved with musical. But I love all of this because to me, you work your life to a certain point where at the pinnacle of your intellectual ability of your career, you retire.
Yes.
Knowing so much, and yet now there's nothing left to do. So to me, giving back is really critical, whether we give back with money or we give our time with our knowledge, but that's the key to it all, and it keeps you young. So I've been a guest speaker. I lecture at the Yeshiva in New York on business, on ethics and business. I do this. I'm the treasurer of my building in New York. I'm on the board of directors of 2 temples. I just love it all. You give back to your community, but you actually use your knowledge that you've gained all these years to do all this.
Absolutely.
And that's really what I think keeps me young. I'm only 50, but I look good for 50. But so that's a little about my varied story.
Well, that's an amazing story. I mean, you've lived 3 lives.
I did, and I probably have 2 more to go.
And, my next question was going to be, at this point in your life where you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, you've managed different careers because you have a finance career, you have a building career, you had your music career. What is some advice that you would give somebody that's younger than you and just starting out? What kind of advice would you give them?
It's a great question. And here's what I tell people. When you're 23, 24, and you're starting out, you think you know what you want to do. You graduate college with as much as colleges. I'm not telling people don't go to college. You come out knowing nothing about the real world. You probably, other than maybe if you're going to medicine, really are not geared to a career yet. Do whatever you want to do, but love what you do. Get up in the morning and enjoy what you do and learn as much as you can about that. But don't think that's your career for the rest of your life, because it won't be. Someday someone's going to walk in the office, you're going to meet somebody, you're going to talk to somebody, and all of a sudden you're going to start doing something else. But you use what you've done as a stepping stone. Life's a ladder. Every day is another step. But be open-minded. Don't be disappointed. I find today 2 of the biggest problems I see in the younger generation is, number one, they want instant gratification, because with all of this culture and all the social media, everything's instant. So they don't want to pay their dues. They don't want to start at 30,000 and work their way up to 100. They want to start at 100, work their way up to 200. There's an impatience to what they do. Their intellect is there. They have some of the most phenomenal tools at their hands, but don't use that to take away your ability. I always say, if you want to be successful in life, either take an acting class when you're young or get into public speaking. Because today the kids don't have the communication skills we all grew up with.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Because it's all texting.
It's all technology.
So I would say, live your dream. Don't expect it to be your future, but it's a stepping stone. You have to learn as much as you can about that. What you do probably 15 years ago is different than what you're doing today.
Absolutely.
But back then, you thought that was it.
Yep.
Today, kids have to be more patient. They have to live their dream, enjoy what they do, look forward to it, but think sometimes big picture as well. Don't get caught up in the minutia of the day-to-day of what you're doing. See how you can utilize your knowledge today to do something else tomorrow. But I always say, if you live in your past, you're going to be depressed. If you live in the future, you're going to be full of anxiety. Live in today.
That's great.
Enjoy the moment today, and you'll have a great life. So my advice is, follow your dream, follow your passion, and don't be disappointed because something else is around the corner.
That's great advice, Bob. And I appreciate you telling us your story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I have a few more days of it, but
We'll do a part 2 next time.
you got a deal. Anytime.
Thank you very much, Bob.
My pleasure. Thank you. Welcome back. Now that you heard a little about me, which I'm sure was very boring, the more important part of the afternoon is we're going to meet with Cindy Orlinsky, who's running for City Commission. And I felt with this time of the year, with the elections going on and everything, we've met with quite a few people running for school board, running for commission. I sort of saved the best for last in a way because I'm partial. I've known Cindy for a long time. But just to let you know, Cindy has been involved with our city for many years. She's been involved with our school system. She's involved with the school itself, the police association, working on projects for the city. So she's not new to Aventura or to the government, but she's very much a part of our city. And she's running. I know you have people running against you, so we've been fair to everybody. We've tried to get everybody here that's fair.
Yeah.
But we'd like to know a little about you because we realize we have thousands of people that live here, actually close to 5,000 to 6,000. And this is ad not only here, but to all the people or wherever they are that can still write in votes. But more importantly, they don't know, they see a name, but they call me and say, who should I vote for? And we have always made it a practice here on this. We have to be neutral.
Right.
But they're entitled to know a little about you as I know you. She's also very involved with Ellie's Army, which is a fundraising program to help children and such, and you can explain it. Sure. But I want you to get to know Cindy as I know her. So first of all, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
I'm not going to ask you to talk all about your past, but I'd like to fast forward to after all of these years of doing so much you've done for the city. What made you decide to run for commission?
So about 5 years ago, I wanted to run for commission, but at that time, my son was being bar mitzvahed, my daughter was going to college, and I work full time, so the timing didn't work for me. So an opportunity arose that I could try again. It was a short period for me to get the campaign together, and I'm lucky enough to be able to run for the seat that Michael Stern was in. Unfortunately, he passed away and was a friend, and I sat on a lot of boards with him. So I'm honored to be able to run and get into his seat and take it over. So that opportunity came and I took it. So here I am.
Let the people know, what have you done already in the city? Because you've done a lot.
Thanks.
So I just briefly touched on it because I probably don't know half of what you've done.
So I lived in the city over 30 years before it's been a city.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So I was here when we became the City of Excellence. And through that time, I met my husband, we got married, I raised my children here, and they went to ACES. While at ACES for 15 years, I was the president of what they called the PTA Teacher Appreciation.
I remember that. Yeah.
I sat on that and kind of morphed into the ESAC committee, which was the advisory board from the school to the city, because at that time and still, the city owns the school. So I would come and present and be that voice for the parents and the school. So during that whole time, we were lobbying to get a high school. For many years, I sat with all the parents and, as you know, into all the commission meetings and the workshops, worked hard on pushing to get that high school done. When the high school was built, and we were cheering it all along, I sat as the president of that PTA and then the president of the foundation for the high school and raised money for the high school and brought recognition to the high school, which I still work with the high school, even though my son has graduated from there and my daughter is now in grad school. I still work with them closely with the PTA to bring recognition, create excitement, and help them with any kind of fundraising they need. I also sit as on the panel of the Community Advisory Ambassador panel to the police. So we're one of many now. I was one of the founders with Michael Stern.
Yeah, you were there a long time.
Yeah, and now we have a bunch. But we sit as an ambassador panel helping connect the community to the police department, and that's a big passion of mine. I'm also the vice president of Country Club Estates, which is my community where I live, for many years. I sit on the board for, I think it's 12 years now. I'm sitting on that board.
You're a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, I keep going. And as you mentioned, Ellie's Army, I'm the president of that foundation. It's a national foundation. We help terminally ill children and their families fight another day. So when those children are dying or struggling with their disease, we pay their mortgage, we get them a car, we take them out of debt, just so they can
now tell us, I know it, but tell us about what Ellie's Army, how did it start? Because I think that's a beautiful story that you were involved with.
So one of my very close friends, her name is Stacy Levy. Stacy and Brian Levy unfortunately lost their daughter to cystic fibrosis. While she was alive, Ellie started a foundation called Reach for the Stars. And a guy named Jay Fiedler, which a lot of people might know,
he was the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins many years ago.
And brought us to, great success during his time. He was on the board, and that time he was super popular. So he brought a lot of recognition to the foundation. He still sits on the board with me today. But that,
not to interrupt you, but somebody here on the island named Jeff Klein is also on that board with you. And he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, Jeff Klein has been there since the beginning.
Right.
And Jeff Klein and my husband went to college together. They both went to Indiana. They both were in the fraternity together.
Oh, wow.
So all of Ellie's Army actually brought Jeff and I together.
Gotcha.
But we sit together today. We still sit together today on that board. I sit as the president of the board. and create a lot of initiatives for the organization. So that started when Ellie was alive, and Jeff was a part of it then, and Jay was a part of it then. And then I came on a few years later, and it was called Reach for the Stars at that point, and now it's called Ellie's Army in her honor.
That's great.
So we started 6 years ago. It'll be our 6th year this year. The Dirty Socks 5K Walkathon here in Aventura, held at the library, and it's a family event. Last year we had over 600 attendees from the city. So it's become a city event, which has been a lot of my initiative to bring our city together.
So you know Aventura very well.
Just a little bit.
It's interesting because being a past commissioner, you always hear the next person that comes on to go for the office of any office says, I want to do this to make it better, better, better. And of course, there is always room for improvement. But it's almost like, okay, what did we do wrong in the past that someone else wants to come on and make it that much better? But we do have an amazing city. And I will say Aventura is a bubble, I always call it, in the world, because we have everything there is to have within one little community. Yeah. And it's a big community, but it's run like a family. So you coming in, how do you approach it? What do you think you can do differently than it's been done? How would you approach it?
So I agree with you. We live in an amazing city. So I'm here. That's why I do everything that I do. And there's more that I'd love to do. One of the big initiatives, sitting on the police and safety is a huge concern always, just to keep our community safe. But our police department does an amazing job at that. So there's just keeping them at the forefront of the technology that's out there, keeping us first in whatever is needed so that our city can remain safe and as good as it is. And of course, I'm involved with the schools, so I would want to always keep the academic excellence. And I do think they're doing a great job with the academic side. I do think they need help with the camaraderie and the fun and the spirit and the sports and all of that. And I would love to make it a holistic approach, and bring that to the city. And I think that's not a hard task to do. Just somebody needs to focus on it. And the last thing is bringing our community together. And I think through Ellie's Army, I've proven that I can do that. I would love to see jazz concerts, and you could be, an expert in that. I would love to see, movie night is great, but I'd love to see more interaction with our aging population, maybe a book club, maybe a lunch once a month. Maybe there's food and wine just in Aventura. We are a big art enthusiast community. Why don't we have art installations like every other city? We don't have any of that. So I think there's not necessarily lacking. We're not lacking, but there's always room for improvement.
Correct.
And so we can make excitement and bring people here for different reasons, that our community that are here, that are living here, that are not here full-time or here full-time can enjoy.
Well, it's very interesting because I'm watching the demographics of Williams Island change, and we have now close to 400 or 500 children in this island.
Yeah.
And obviously that reflects back to the whole city. Yeah. And with our high school and with the middle school, et cetera, it's an amazing school system we have. But what I like about the commission is it's getting younger, it's getting more progressive, and it's looking to deal with that younger generation, which I think is important, which you bring a lot to it, because you were very involved with the school, and you still are.
Yeah.
Do you see, looking at the commission as it is now, and I'm not asking you to evaluate it at all, because they're all friends of ours.
Right.
But sometimes we hear it's a clique. They all vote the same. They all do this the same. They all do that the same, this, that. I don't believe that. I think we have a great bunch of people on our commission. They all have minds of their own, but sometimes they're unified in the direction they want to take. Do you feel that the commission that's now you can fit right into it and you'll be part of it?
I do. I think that they're aligned with the vision that I have for the community. I do think that people believe that they're a clique and things like that, but they also workshop things and they're talking things through, and not a lot of people go. I sit in that workshop and there's maybe 2 or 3 of us that are residents and the rest are there for whatever issues are at hand. But they're discussing it and organizing themselves, and they're not always in agreement. But in the end, when they do come to a conclusion, it's unified and they have just talked it all out. And when they get to those commission meetings, they've already discussed all the concerns. And so that's why it may look like they're a clique, but they've gone through all the
Yeah, when they go to the workshop, they're not
getting
a
it
clique.
done. Right. They're getting the work done. It's not easy.
So are you enjoying this running for office now?
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I see you all over the place.
And I also work full time and have a family, so combining it all together is not hard. It's just organizing yourself. But I love meeting people,
Yeah, yeah.
and I do it all day long anyways. So with my career,
Who are you running against? I forget.
I'm running against Gary Pyatt.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. We had Gary on a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a very nice gentleman.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice guy.
Yeah. I sit on a couple boards with him.
I remember I was very fortunate. The first time I ran, I had no opposition. Second time, I had somebody we won't talk about who was horrible to me. But at the last minute, they dropped out.
Oh.
So I really never went into it to the very end with
Right.
competition, not because of me, but because I was very fortunate.
Right.
How does it feel running against somebody that you're good friends with?
So we talked in advance. We called each other and had that conversation that we're both going to be doing this. And my comment to him was, let's make it fun. We'll make it fun. We're going to be in the same rooms. We're going to be doing the same activities. We're going to make it fun. And he appreciated that. So I think running against somebody that you're friends with, as long as you keep it high level and you keep it honest and you just move forward and it'll all work out.
Do you think anything in your past has gotten you ready for this?
Everything in my past has gotten me ready. So I'm an attorney by trade.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, Arlene, we have to be careful. I didn't know that.
Yes, I'm an attorney. I hated it. So I bought and sold many businesses along my career. One of them being Crone Chocolatier. Maybe many of your residents might know that.
Yes,
It was at
yes.
Bal Harbor. We moved it to Aventura Mall. And when I sold my last business, which wasn't Crone, but a different business, I decided I'm going to go into real estate. So I had my broker's license since I'm very young. So I've been doing it a very long time. And all of those experiences, all of those businesses and practicing and doing real estate now, which also exposes me to a lot of people, especially on Williams Island, has molded me into the person that I am today. It's created a different type of
It's so interesting what you just said, because I was just interviewed
yeah.
and they asked me, and it's exactly what I said. You never know what tomorrow brings, but everything you do is a learning curve for what you're going to do tomorrow.
100%.
And that's you start at attorney, you go into chocolate, you go into Crow. It's every day is a different life for you.
Everyone has said to me, you've worn so many hats.
Yeah.
How do you do all that? And for me, it's exciting. I'm better when I'm busier. So, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy everything I do, every experience I've been in. They've not all been positive, and, but I've been lucky that it's been successful. So,
That's wonderful.
yeah.
So what else do you want to tell us about you or the job?
Well, I have 2 kids. I don't think we spoke about that. A husband and 2 kids.
I've met your husband, I've met your kids.
Okay. One is just back from college. Well, she's in grad school now, getting her degree in sports psychology and her MBA. And then my son is at FSU. So those, that's
Now, does he live at home or?
Well, my daughter lives at home and my son's out at college. He's in Tallahassee.
So you're not an empty nester yet.
I'm not really. I don't want to be.
You don't want to be. And by the way, they keep coming home.
Yes,
anyhow.
I love having my daughter there, and I hope my son wants to come back to South
Really?
Florida.
See, that's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Arlene told me that she doesn't want the kids to come back.
Yeah. Really?
Trust me. Yeah, they all come back. You don't get rid of them, so don't worry about
That's a
it. But
good
sometimes they're going to come back with babies.
That's okay.
That's okay.
I
too.
don't want to rush it.
No, don't rush it.
I'm
Let them get
excited
married
for
first.
all the next steps. Yeah. So that's, me, and I enjoy being around town. I really do.
And you are. You
Yeah.
are. Look what you've done for this city. It's truly amazing.
Thank you.
And I understand that we're looking at more land to expand the school system.
Yes, we are. So the current commission are in discussions, and I think they've confirmed another piece of property that they're going to purchase
I
is
heard
right
that.
next to the high school.
Correct.
They're going to be building a new building, and that will be for the middle school. So they will take ACES Charter School, will be K through 5. the new school will be 6 through 8, and then we have the high school as it is.
That's a great thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be wonderful.
And it'll be an entire campus, which is what it should be.
Yes.
And by doing that, we have about 1,200 kids on the waiting list at ACES.
Amazing.
And I think 1,000 or 1,100 for the high school.
Yeah.
This will open up a lot of seats for a lot of kids. So our Aventura residents can go to our Aventura schools, and we won't have as big of a waiting list as we do today. So
Great.
That's an amazing step forward.
So now we know all about Cindy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, I think you'd be fantastic.
Thank you.
I've known Cindy for a long time. I only wish you the best. You know that.
Thank you.
And whatever we can do here on the island to help you, we are a polling place,
I know. And
So come election day, I'm sure we're going to see something up there with your name on it.
Yes, I will be there. I'll have people there.
That's great.
And I humbly ask your community for their vote. I look forward to serving you, and I really appreciate you meeting with me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today. Now you know a little more about me. I will tell you, it's a little embarrassing. I've never talked about myself because I really don't like to, but I couldn't say no to Arlene, plus mainly because I didn't know she was going to even do it. But let me bring you up to date a little, because I know there's some people that are, obviously most of the island is questioning when things are going to open, what's the status of the club. Everything is going on schedule from the entrance into the clubhouse, the new clubhouse. The pool area is moving along on schedule. The new bar is being put together. The interior is already getting dried in. Windows are up. Drywall is up. All of those things are moving along beautifully. The only issue we have now, which may cause a slight delay, is in the very entrance where the main road is coming in. A lot of what's underground was not located properly when we did the surveys. And because of it, there's electric, there's gas, there's water, there's cable, and it's very difficult to put piles in to do the entrance as it was designed. So we're looking at alternatives of how to do it. Probably what we will do is we will have a temporary entrance so we can open up everything from the bridge on and redevelop that, come up with a new design, and create what we will do, but at least we'll be able to open. In tentative dates, I would say that we'll probably be opening up the pool area sometime in mid-January. We should be opening up the clubhouse banquet-wise by February, and the dining room probably February or March. So we're not far off from the original schedule, but at least we'll get open. But the pool area will be open for most of the season. Like I said, it may be a temporary entrance going in until we get this resolved. We're working with our engineers and our architects. But there are solutions. There are temporary solutions, fortunately, that we can do in the meantime. Once we get that resolved, we'll go ahead with it. But it's not holding up everything else that's being done within the island itself. You all know that November 20th is our welcome back party, and we hope all of you are there for it. It's a wonderful event. We have it every year. It's there for you. And the island itself, obviously, is being dug up in different places because we have hot wire running in through the streets. We have the cable that's going in right now. We have the plumbing that's going in, the wiring for the new island club. But on the next board meeting we have, which is coming up I think it's next week, I believe you should all either attend by Zoom, because that meeting is going to be a board meeting workshop combination of the new budget for next year. And it's very important that we get your input, we get your thoughts, you see what's going on with the island, what the new budgets are going to be. But I will tell you that at that meeting, we're going to be presenting a 5-year capital plan for the island. And some of the items that we're looking into are playgrounds for kids, sports parks for kids. We're going to be redoing tennis courts. We'll be adding some new sports facilities. I understand that Bedell is very popular. We're looking into that now. Maybe adding more pickleball. So all of these things will be looked into and put together for a 5-year plan. I will tell you that in this 5-year plan, we're anticipating it's a $10 million series of projects, all of which we've arranged for financing with the board. So there will be no assessments necessary for these projects. I will tell you, we have plenty of money. Financially, we are the most sound we've been in many, many years. Our reserves are exactly where they should be based on our reserve studies. But most importantly, we wanted to make sure we keep going with the updates and upgrades. We also have in the plans for the future next year or two, We're redoing our spa, updating it, bringing it to the 21st century, new equipment, new design, new wet area facilities. This is all part of this 5-year plan that we have. Because once we finish the clubhouse, we want to keep going with all of these improvements. And it really makes a difference to the island that we stay up to date with how it looks. We cannot let it go down in any way aesthetically. So again, as I said, it's a $10 million plan, none of which will be funded through assessments. We will have all the necessary funding done through our preparations. So we will be able to complete all these projects. I want to thank the board because the board has been amazing through the last few years, and especially now with all the things going on, with hurricanes coming, with all of this. Our board of directors has been a tremendous support to everything that happens on this island. And it's not me. I'm just the face for the moment. We have 13 guys that are great, and women. But I want to thank them as well. Jeff Klein, who runs our island. Thomas, our finance. Carrie in the spa. Carlos in the tennis. I mean, each and every person is amazing. So I want to thank you all. I look forward to seeing you at the meeting next week. So please look at the calendar. I'd like you to attend it. It's a Zoom call so everyone can sit in their home. We will take questions at the end of the meeting, but it does pertain to your future here because it's all about capital, it's about our budgets, and it's about the future of Williams Island. I want to thank you very much and have a wonderful holiday.